So, hello and welcome once again to another episode of the Turn 5 podcast in its Turn 2 variant.
Hey.
Me and Ben are back to discuss our thoughts of what was honestly quite a boring race around the Mexico circuit.
Yeah, it was
Um,
tactical the whole time and it was dull.
yeah, that's the thing. Like some tactical races are interesting. This just wasn't.
It was mostly because what we were waiting for just never
Never happened.
happened.
Yeah. Like fair play to Red Bull. They actually made the one stop onto the mediums work. I thought that was a bit touch and go length of the race left because they
But yeah,
pitted on 23 and 25, I think it was, something like
yeah, around then.
that. I mean, it's a 71 lap race. That's a long way to go on a set of mediums. But as the Merc boys proved, the hards just weren't really doing it for them. So, um, yeah, I mean, let's start with just it was a probably one of the worst races of the season.
Yeah, I feel like as F1 fans, we've sort of let Mexico go over the past few years because it's one of the races at the end of the season. So then we just look back at other dull races at the start.
Yeah, I think we kind of also let it go because the crowd spectacle,
Yeah,
like the absolute cacophony of noise that was made whenever Checo made an appearance on circuit was insane. Um, so I mean, fair play to Mexico. That's some incredible support for their driver. Yeah, I mean that's I know it really depends on where the trackside mics are put, but like to me, that's sort of like top three of like levels of noise that I've heard from a circuit.
yeah, it seems like all very close together as well in the stadium section.
Yeah, that probably does help quite a lot actually. But even like the grandstands down at like turn one, two,
Yeah,
three, even that was really loud when Checo was coming out. So no, I mean it's great to see that the drivers are getting the support that they are. Um, I mean, you kind of I guess it's kind of expected when you have a driver that has a home race that they are the most supported, but at the same time, the I don't think it's as potentially one-sided as many others. Like Great Britain is very much the British drivers, but because there's a couple of them, the support gets divided a bit.
yeah,
The Netherlands is very much Max, and Mexico is very much Checo. Like you go to other races, and there's a lot of like varying support for other drivers. Like we saw it at America last week. There was a good, healthy support for all of the teams.
Mm.
But yeah, this was Checo's week.
Yeah.
That was evident. And I mean, when he qualified third, I did think that's not bad. That's a good spot to be because statistically, Max has done something that's quite hard by virtue of winning from the front row. That doesn't happen very often. I think they said it was like out of the last, I think it was 5 times out of the last like 13 races or something. Well, I can't remember the exact stat, but it was very low in the whole. It's going to happen for you statistic, and the most of the winners have come from the second row.
Yeah, it's from the slipstream and that.
Yeah, I mean there was a someone put out a graphic of sort of the curse of Mexico over the last few races, and it was whoever qualified on pole didn't win the race and wasn't even on the podium,
Yeah,
and that was for the last 4 goes at Mexico. So we've finally broken that trend, and Max has won it, chucked it on pole, done the whole deal. So yeah, I mean, it just kind of shows that there's not really a lot that can stop Max at this point, is there?
unless the car magically breaks down somehow.
True. But even then, like that hasn't really happened since
Well,
Australia.
I don't. Yeah, I don't. I
Well,
feel
not in a
like
race. They've had a couple of gremlins outside of race sessions. They've had like
yeah,
FP1 and 2 gremlins, but that's easy enough to sort. Um, Speaking of stats, Max has now done 14 wins in a season. So that
yeah,
is the most in a single season. We'll caveat that by saying it's more races in this season than when the other two 13 win seasons were done. Vettel's was 13 wins in 19 races. So technically, Max equaled that record last time out.
but
So it's kind of level pegging on that front.
um, they
Um,
break it again in like 5 years' time when there's 30 races.
yeah. Wait, 30? God,
Yes,
that's more than
probably.
every other weekend.
Yeah, it'll soon be like 50 races a season.
No break, just keep going.
Yeah,
But I know it will count forever as the most wins in a single season, but you have got to remember that there are more races these days. And it's why there's such difficulty with sort of comparing different generations. Like you look back at Schumacher and you compare it to Hamilton, and the one that they do is like career points. And it's like, okay, well, back in
you used to
Schumacher's
get
day,
10.
you got 10 points for a win, and points only went down to like eighth at most.
Yeah,
So career points isn't really a good comparison. Um,
it's probably best on race wins, but even then, you still be like, he has more races though.
yeah,
So,
exactly. So you go on
but
like
then you just,
win percentage.
yeah,
So I mean, as far as I'm concerned, I think there's just going to be different generations of the
yeah,
bests, and I think that's probably how it's going to stay. I mean, it's always going to be the way in a sport that's so technology reliant, isn't it? Like
yeah,
if you took Sterling Moss and put him in today's car, he probably wouldn't even know how to start the thing. But equally, if you took Charles Leclerc and put him in a 1950s Formula One car, there's no guarantee he's going to be a world beater, you know? So I think greatest of their generation should be the thing and not greatest of all time.
yeah. You can still just do greatest of all time. It's a bit of fun. Just create chaos and arguments.
All right, starting the Twitter wars. God.
Yep.
Um, let's get on to the 2 points because this is going to be a short episode because it's going to be quick. Gasly got a 5 second time penalty for forcing an opponent off the track.
Yeah, Stroll, that's fine. Nothing wrong with it.
I mean, he's probably saved himself some time in the long run because within a couple of laps, he was 2.5 seconds up the road anyway.
Yeah.
So, I mean, the only concern is now that he is on 10 penalty points and they don't drop off until like May next year. So he's one collision, one leaving the track and gaining an advantage, one forcing an opponent off the circuit away from a race ban.
He could do it in like Brazil just as tactical, so that he misses Abu Dhabi.
And then Alpine are like, what do we do? And then they have to put
No,
Piastri in because he's the reserve driver.
so funny.
Um, I mean, you couldn't really complain with the penalty. It was very obvious.
Yeah,
Um,
he locked off, and then Stroll had
yeah.
literally nowhere to go.
So, but hey, at least they did it. They were a bit slow on the old uptake, in my opinion. I mean, Brundle on commentary made this decision in about a second, and it took race control like 2 laps to
they went
submit
from
it to
like
the stewards.
noted, and then
Yeah,
stewards are looking at it. Oh god,
yeah,
he's got a 5 second penalty.
yeah. So,
But it did seem like the way to go in Mexico is the best way is to take out the person you're in front and then just
deal with the
steam
penalty
off through.
afterwards.
Yeah.
Yeah, Nice segue onto Daniel Ricciardo, who, okay, he's stuck his nose in probably, let's be real, in somewhere it didn't really belong.
I
Um,
know he said that he didn't actually want to overtake. He was just trying
yeah,
to force Yuki offline.
which is, that's a fair enough tactic, but
Yeah. Yeah, obviously he
it
forced it
hasn't
a
come
bit
off.
too much.
I mean, Yuki did chop into the racing line, so there
Yeah,
is an
but then
element of that to it. But at the same
he's
time, you're
also
not really
entitled.
expecting someone to be there.
Yeah, it's like Danny
So
Rick only just had his like wheel by
it was
Yuki's
by the side
rear
pod,
wheel.
really, wasn't it? Because
It's
his
like
rear
just
wheels has then
pass.
come over. So,
Yeah.
and that was, I think, what ended his race because he managed to limp it back to the pits, but then it was a quick retirement. Um, I think 10 seconds was a bit harsh.
Yeah, it's probably another one where the stewards look at the fact that Yuki was out of the race and
Carlos
then
Sainz says hello, and
yeah.
George Russell's 5 second penalty. Oh, but it's turn one. Yeah, but George was also not in full control of his car because he had locked up. Danny was in full control of his car, had not locked up, and yet got a 10-second time penalty. I feel like 5 would have been fair.
I reckon there should be a middle ground between 10 and 5.
A 7.5 second
Yeah, I think
penalty.
that is about fair.
So I don't know. Because as per the rules, you're not supposed to take the outcome into consideration, but
Yeah.
like
5 seconds sort of seem like nothing though. The
true,
fact that
but when you look at other incidents that
yeah,
have also garnered a 5 second penalty, you think, okay, this kind of fits in that bracket. And then you look at incidents that have given the 10 second penalty, and it's like, this doesn't belong here.
no.
So, yeah, bit inconsistent there. Next on my list of points is sort of something that wasn't really in the race, but was around the race. We had Günther Steiner on the pit wall this weekend, and he's made appearances before, but many people speculate that it was supposed to be Red Bull on the pit wall this weekend. But they are not talking to Sky because basically Sky keep their British bias going. Is the long and short of it. Um, the I think it's just the language that they use. They keep calling last year's title a robbery, and look, you're entitled to your opinion, but when you're a broadcaster and you keep repeating that opinion, it borders on becoming propaganda. And as Max spoke about it in a post race conference, and I think what he said is really mature, actually. In the fact that you have an audience, you have a responsibility to them and the sport, and it's already toxic enough online as is.
Yeah.
So why are you adding fuel to the fire by consistently bringing up something that has happened, has been investigated, and changes have been made? And I think it's just, it's time to just move on.
Yeah, well, it's time to move on last year, really, wasn't it?
I mean, yeah. Once the announcement was made
Uh,
about the results, that was it. Like, just get on with it. Done.
yeah. It was
You,
like what happened was should it have happened? Probably not. Did it happen? Yes. Get over it. Move on. On
like,
to next year. What happened this year? Nothing. He lost again. What a shame.
you had your chance to appeal and make something out of it, and they didn't do it. So
I
I
think it's fair
just
enough.
living in the past is not going to get you anywhere. And look, I have great respect for the people who are on the telly and doing their job, but at the same time, like, oh my god, it wears really thin when it's just consistently so obviously biased. Like, I get it, you're a British broadcaster, but at the same time, a lot of British fans aren't actually rooting for British drivers.
Okay.
Like, I know I do, but I also root for Danny Ricciardo.
Yeah, but then you don't root for Lewis, do you? So
No, I don't.
there you go. I don't root for
Um,
Lewis.
I mean, I root for Charles Leclerc before I'll root for Lewis. I root for Seb Vettel. I root for Mick Schumacher.
Yes, that was so bad.
Like, be, someone on BBC News has been suspended because of their bias, but because it's political and the BBC is supposed to be a neutral ground. Well, why is Sky different? Why can't we just have a neutral ground? Oh, look, it's the sport done. Like Sky Sports Football, yes, has pundits that were of teams, but they balance it out, you know? They'll have an ex Liverpool player alongside an ex Man United player when the two teams face. But all we've got is Lewis suck ups, Merck suck ups. You know, it's honestly so boring. I I think the most neutral person on the team is Martin Brundle.
Yeah, he's I don't. He's just a racer, isn't it?
Exactly.
He knows
That's the thing. That
he's
you,
done it for so long. He just knows
but that's
what's
the
right and
there's
what's wrong,
there's the
and he's
difference though.
perfect.
There's the difference between Brundle, who did it for a long time, and some of the other pundits who ex-racing pundits who haven't done it for a long time. Because I think the next the next least biased person for me is Jenson Button.
Yeah, but everyone loves Jensen.
Yeah, I mean, he openly admits that he will root for his mates because he raced alongside Lewis, and he works with McLaren and probably knows Lando quite well from its youth program.
And Williams as well now.
Well, yeah,
So,
like, but come on,
it's bad.
it's just,
So
it really makes me wish I could get F1 TV and just watch that because look, I love Brundle's commentary and his little nuggets that he just drops in. You know, tires like 50 pence a piece, understeers like a shopping trolley, squeezes the pedal like there's an egg under it. Like, you know, this is so iconic. But at the same time, I'm really bored of just the constant, oh, is Lewis Hamilton going to win from across the other side of the room? And it's like, oh, get over yourself. He's not going to win. The Red Bull is clearly superior.
it's a shame they just can't talk to him anymore. I
So,
think it's funny the fact that we're more likely to talk to Red Bull than
shall I ping someone an email and just be like, hey, look, we're a British broadcaster.
Yeah, we're British.
We don't particularly like Sky right now. Would you like to come on ours? So, but to be fair, speaking of Merck and bias, after the race, Lewis was getting booed by the crowd, and Perez, absolute Chad, steps up and just wags his finger at the crowd to get them to shut up. I respect that. I respect that because I mean they've been racing together a long time. Well, since Checo made his debut.
So 2011.
Yeah. So you know they've been around the block a few times, you know.
Yeah.
But yeah, no, I respect Checo for doing that because I think okay, I guess maybe we don't really know why, but if you wanted to guess, you could guess that because Sky Sports is sucking up to Merck so much, the Merck drivers are getting booed by the fans of Red Bull. But that's purely speculation. I don't really know. And would Mexican fans even give a crap about British broadcasters? Probably not.
Really, that's how it's it.
I don't really know.
It was strange. It's weird. The fact that booing's around is just pathetic. Really,
it's yeah.
I don't see the point in it. Even when they boo like Red Bull at times with like Max and Perez, I don't get it. It's like it wasn't Perez or Max's fault for
that was
the cost cap and whatever.
And the ones that stick out to me are the ones where Red Bull got booed for going over the cost cap, but like, what's that got to do with the drivers? Or when Max got booed at like every opening round of the season, especially in Silverstone, because he stole Lewis's world championship. No, if a referee makes a bad call and gives the opponents a penalty, is the opposing penalty taker really going to miss?
And there you
He's
just
going to
shout the
do
referee.
his. He's just going to do his job, isn't he? And that's what Max did. He did his job. He drove. He won. Get over it. Done. It's not Max's fault. It's not Red Bull's fault. It was the FIA.
Yeah.
As was said in their document.
That's who
So,
you go after.
boom. On more positive news, and just sort of rounding off the most interesting points of the race, we are back into the sub 2 second pit stop times because McLaren have the fastest pit stop of the season with a 1.98 second pit stop.
It's madness.
Phenomenal effort. Like
Yeah,
when
even this year,
yeah,
it was kind of weird because last year they were always McLaren have always just been okay at pit stops.
yeah, you sort of you see a 2.5 and you think decent.
Yeah, that'd be all right.
But then there was a couple of times last year where it was like 5 seconds, and you're thinking, "Oh my god, we need to sort this out."
And this year they've just come out swinging all over the gap.
I mean, don't get me wrong, there have been some pit stops that have been dodgy, but at the same time,
every team's had dodgy pit stops this year.
Yeah, I think everyone's still getting used to the new wheel size and weight.
With Ferrari, we had them try put on a wheel at 90 degrees.
It wasn't even lined up with the drum. Then again, we say that in one of the free practice sessions, McLaren guy tried to put on a wheel backwards. So the wheel cap was going, I was like bashing against it. It was like, why isn't it going on? Pulls it out, sees it's the wrong way around, has to spin the wheel around and put it on. So it was mad. But still, sub 2 second pit stops. That's a sort of a realm that we weren't sure we'd ever actually get back to when the changes were announced. So fair play to everyone involved for actually making it happen. That's only like what was the record? 2.81, I think, wasn't it? Something like that.
Too.
But like to be that close again, but with a much heavier and bigger wheels, is a cracking effort. And I'm now expecting Red Bull to be a little bit salty because they've always prided themselves on having the fastest pit crews. And now McLaren have just rocked up.
2.13, I think.
2.1. Oh my god. Okay, I'm a bit behind.
There we go. 2.1 for Perez.
Oh my god. Okay, yeah, that is good. Oh yeah, we were getting us all around with like, are we going to get sub 2, weren't we?
Yeah.
Oh man. Still, I don't really know what else we've got to talk about. We've got 2 races left. We've got Brazil and Abu Dhabi, but we've got a week off now.
Yeah, so we'll probably speak how boring Mexico is next week as well.
Yeah.
Well, hopefully more of us and more time.
Yeah, when Chris isn't at work and Nia is not out / on her way back. So
she's probably trick or treating. Absolute weirdo.
Unbelievable. Anyway, I think we'll go over our prediction results. Actually, that's a good point. I haven't done that. We've gone from record attendance last week to 0 attendance this week.
Only us.
Oh yes, the absolute cornerstones of the podcast. Let's start with Lapdown Showdown. Nia got a bingo. She got Latifi 25 and 2, which is exactly what happened. Wow. So yeah, she won that one. Bold predictions. Ben, you said Vettel P7. No, I'm afraid not. Chris said Williams points. No. Nia said double McLaren points. Oh, that came off.
What's happened to her last week?
Don't know. I said double Aston Martin points. That's gone down the drain. Harry said a Russell win. Ono said a Latifi clean weekend. I can't remember him going off anywhere.
No idea.
So
we just give it to him.
I'm gonna give it. Yeah. And Mel said Mick P6 or higher, which did not happen. Sad noises. Podium and pole predictions. Harry, I am so sorry. You scored 0 points, mate. Sonia scored 1. Chris and Nia both scored 3. Ben, you and Ono both scored 4 points. Mel scored 5 points, and I won this week with 7 points. So yeah,
We didn't even go over them last week either.
What do you mean? What the results? We did very quickly.
Did we?
Yeah, because we didn't want to let Chris revel in his glory for too long. So that was why.
Fair enough.
Right. Well, that about wraps up for this week. Thank you for listening and or watching to the Turn 5 podcasts. Like, rate, comment, subscribe. Join us on all our social media and podcasting platforms. And we will see you.
Absolutely rinsed by fastest lap. What's that about?
Mate, just because we just don't do any. We just don't do any. They're not wrong. They're not wrong. It's the problem. They're not wrong.
Gaslight us. God.
Anyway, join us next week for our Brazil predictions. And yeah, thank you for listening and goodbye.